guys, welcome back to our channel. Today we're sitting down to do a Q&A video with you all. So I've screenshotted some questions that you guys have left in the comments of our YouTube videos. So we're just going to be going through and answering them as we go. Okay, so we'll jump right in. So our first question is from CJ. So this was on a recent video of ours. She said, do you guys do carb cycling and what's your take on vegetable oils? So as far as carb cycling goes, we don't particularly do carb cycling, though I would say that our carbs go up and down depending on our activity levels in general.
Yeah, so I guess that is kind of like carb
It's
cycling,
not,
but not like
planned.
a full-on plan.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do cycle our carbs to have more carbohydrate on workout days and particularly like after workouts. But yeah, we don't have like a strict like carb cycling plan.
And as far as vegetable oils go, we're not a fan of vegetable oils. For those of you who don't know, vegetable oils are really high in omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acids. So we know that when we eat these, they can contribute to inflammation because
they're very fragile.
Yeah, and when you cook with omega-6 oils, they generally become oxidized. So oxidized fatty acids are very inflammatory in the body.
So that's like your cottonseed oil, sunflower seed oil. It's another popular one.
Canola oil.
Canola oil.
Peanut
We're
oil.
not talking about olive oil though.
No, olive oil's good.
Olive oil is good and we use that in salads a lot, but not so much in cooking. Generally, I think we feel that anything that's squeezed from the seeds of like a million tiny seeds is not natural and it's not good for our body. So
yeah, even just when you think about it, like sunflower seeds, if you ever tried to get oil out of a sunflower seed, and maybe someone would say the same with olives because obviously olives do have to all be pressed, but when you eat an olive, you know that it's oily. It is very oily little fruit, but trying to get oil out of seeds, and it takes a lot of processing to do that, and it's actually quite repulsive when you watch it.
They use certain solvents and things, and then don't they use like deodorizing
Probably.
chemicals because it's stinky as well? I don't know.
There was actually a video I think I saw about it where they showed quickly what the process is. So maybe if I find that, I'll link it below because it's quite freaky when you watch it. It makes you realize just how processed it is. So our second question is from Katie. She said, will you do more fashion or outfit related videos, please?
I think so. I mean, is that something that you guys want to see? We could definitely do some videos about eco fashion and
workout gear and stuff. You've done a workout gear.
I've done a workout one before and we could do more, and I think both of us are pretty interested in more green clothing or sustainable clothing labels for our everyday clothes. So
yeah, not to say we're like 100% perfect with all of this stuff, but something that we're definitely interested in.
Okay, so from Vanessa we have, do you guys ever struggle to buy the really expensive specialty items?
So I'm guessing when she's talking about this, she's meaning things like sauerkraut, and even like a lot of cultured or fermented foods tend to be more pricey.
But then there's also things like ghee and
things
like your grass-fed products or organic products.
I think it's just about prioritizing what you're going to buy. And then if you can't afford those more specialty items like sauerkraut, you can usually make them at home. They're not actually that hard to make. It's just if you've got a little bit more time. So definitely you can make sauerkraut at home, you can make kefir, kombucha, bone broth. You know, there's two options you have. You can either buy it, and even things like bone broth, it's very expensive to buy, so cheap to make at home.
You can even use the fat that you scoop off of your broth for cooking as well. Like it's a really high quality cooking fat, that nice tallow. And the thing about buying your own bones to make broth is they're so cheap, and some butchers will even give them away for free because they have no use for it and they're not too popular. The other thing is you don't have to buy everything organic, like you do again have to prioritize. So for meats, we really try to get grass-fed or organic where we can, and then certain vegetables that we know are highly sprayed, or fruits like berries, things like cucumber and tomatoes, like those really
things are going to absorb
chemicals. So you have your clean 15 and then the dirty dozen. So we try and prioritize where we spend our money on organic, because you can go a bit crazy and buy organic everything, but it can be quite expensive. And the other thing is, if you really want to make this lifestyle cheaper, to be honest, I've spoken to my husband about this a bit, and really we should make more effort to eat organ meats regularly, because when you're buying like good muscle meat cuts,
Yeah.
it can be really expensive.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's not even as healthy as buying the liver or kidneys or other organs. So you can definitely pick up like organic grass-fed organ meats for like such a fraction of the price if you're prepared to learn how to cook with them and eat them more regularly. So that's definitely something that I'm interested in incorporating a lot more into my diet. Not only for like health benefits, but it's like so much cheaper.
Yeah.
So our next question is from Selena. She says, thanks for sharing with us. I really enjoy all your hints and tips. I'm from the US and doing paleo as well, but I'm not familiar with the term activated as it applies to the almond milk. Got a short and sweet explanation. Thanks very much. So we talk a fair bit about activated nuts, and in particular, I think in our last video I mentioned the almond milk was activated. So basically activating is the process of soaking your nuts and seeds so that they release the phytate, which binds to minerals and other nutrients in our gut and makes it hard to absorb. So activating, is simply just soaking your nuts and seeds to reduce their phytate content. And it makes it so much easier to digest, and it helps your body to get nutrition out of the foods that you're consuming along with those nuts and things.
Because you don't want to be drinking almond milk that's full of phytates, because then it's not going to be quite so healthful. So Claudia S says, is coffee paleo? So I think we've gotten this question a few times. I'm not actually sure if coffee would technically be paleo because it's a coffee bean. Legumes, coffee, I don't know. So obviously we don't really mind. We try to emphasize on this channel that yes, we do follow a paleo approach, but we're not super rigid with that. We are quite flexible. We'll have legumes, when we're out. We're not going to be super strict about that. And coffee.
The other thing about paleo is it's not necessarily about like replicating a Paleolithic diet. It's really about understanding foods that we've evolved with and which ones are working for us. And to be honest, there are foods that are relatively new that people do find helpful, like good quality dairy products. A lot of people have adaptations, like even over the last few thousand years. A lot of people, especially Westerners, are already adapted to dairy products. So a lot of people benefit from good quality, like homogenized organic dairy products. So it's not so much about like trying to find out exactly what cavemen ate and then replicate it to the T. It's more look at the foods that we've evolved with and then experiment with foods that are more new.
And there's like a scale as well. So sometimes people just throw everything out, but legumes we don't see as being as problematic as wheat, for example, so it's looking at things on that scale and whether they're really that harmful for you or not.
So is coffee paleo?
Probably not.
Probably not, but do we have coffee?
Yes, we do. Yep. So our next question is from Yeah Man. So it says, hi girls, I keep your tips in mind and try to use them in the kitchen. How do you wean yourself off grains? I come from bread and rice culture and I've been finding some trouble replacing it or cutting it out whole during meals. Okay, so this question is basically, how did we come off of grains? Well, I would say
Gradually,
personally, it was gradually. So we went gluten-free first, so we started cutting out more of the gluten-containing grains, so things like wheat and pasta, things that are made from wheat. So first cutting out those things can be a good start, and we wouldn't get super worried about things like rice. And then I think, it was just kind of gradually we started cutting out the rice as well. And you just do that by replacing it with, a lot of vegetables and even making sure that you're getting your carbs from things like sweet potato.
I think it's just a bit of a adjustment though. It does feel quite uncomfortable at first because I think you're used to everything having like this sandwich or like cracker vehicle to like make a meal like make sense to you when you start, but now we really don't miss that stuff. And to be honest, I don't see like having a bit of white rice now and again as really a problem, but we certainly stick to all the gluten containing grains are out, so no wheat or pasta. But as long as you're subbing that in with other like whole food carbohydrates that you really enjoy, it's not too bad.
And I say that it just takes some time, because I remember there was a time where I couldn't fathom the idea of giving up rice. Like
because we used to eat it every night because our mum is half Chinese and we just grew up like with a bowl of rice.
But I think it's just over time you just gradually change
your taste and your eating habits. Like the way that we look at a meal is just very different. We don't really look at lunch as being some type of sandwich, but I think we used to. It was like for lunch you'd either make some kind of wrap or a sandwich, but now we're thinking more about, I guess, salads and different things that we can grill or make. So
hope that answers your question.
So our next question is from Horse Lover Cuda. Was the kombucha drink alcoholic and is it paleo? So kombucha, interestingly, is slightly alcoholic. It's a fermented drink just like beer and wine. However, it's very low, like something like 0.05%.
Yeah, it's not gonna put you over the limit or anything.
No. However, I think if you brew kombucha at home, if the longer you brew it, the more alcohol content it can have. So potentially you can make yourself a alcoholic kombucha if you leave it too long. But having said that, I think the rule though in Australia is any kombuchas that you buy off the shelf have to be lower than the 0.05%. And is it paleo?
I would say so.
Yeah.
A lot of cultures have been fermenting things for a very long time, so yeah, kombucha is not coming from any grain.
Yeah, that's the thing, like, oh, actually it's not grains with kombucha, but they call the kefir grain. It's not grains, but that's what they call the culture. So Heather asks, do you have any tips or advice on adrenal fatigue? So,
yes.
Yes, we do. Look, adrenal fatigue is so common, you know, whether you're at like a very high level stage or whether you're like deep into burnout, because our modern lifestyle is so busy and we have so many demands on us. So we're actually making a video probably later this week that goes really deep into the subject of adrenal fatigue and some of our top tips for that. So I think we can address that more fully in another video, but we're definitely going to be touching on that topic in more detail.
Okay, so our next question comes from Jenna. So she asks, what tips do you guys have for someone whose family eats really unhealthy and still lives at home? I've been wanting to go paleo for almost a year now, but every time I try, I get sucked back into the unhealthy lifestyle. We've actually received this comment from a few of you that are still living at home, or you know, you're living with your parents and you want to be eating healthier. It's really a difficult one because so much of what you're eating is influenced by the people that are around you, and especially when you're living under someone's roof, it's kind of like you don't have control always over what you're going to be eating.
I think number one, like maybe prioritize what it is that really matters to you, because if you're trying to go 100% paleo, like you're not going to eat rice, I won't eat beans, I won't eat like anything, it could be a bit difficult to get your family on board. It just depends how much you want to compromise, but you could just stick to the really important parts, like dropping out the refined sugars, the seed oils, and also going gluten-free. Those might be a little less challenging to focus on
than trying to do everything like the rice and the beans.
Because I think, yeah, your family could be like quite rudely shocked by you all of a sudden won't eat any of those things.
Yeah. Not even sure what to give you. I think that's a big problem too. It's like, oh, what do you eat?
And of course you can try to educate your family on the changes that you're making and why, but that's no guarantee that they'll be really very interested or supportive, because I think that's just life. And some people aren't as interested in health, and I think we have to accept that and just take responsibility for ourselves, because we don't want to get stuck feeling like we can't make a change because somebody else doesn't accept it or value it. But yeah, having said that, it is a bit hard when you're at home. You might have to compromise a bit. The other thing is you can plug into, you know, friends or people outside of your family that do support you. So, you know, find people who maybe at the gym who are interested in eating clean. Like, surround yourself as much as possible with others who are interested in this.
And I think that includes even like your online influencers, you know, like
watching these videos,
like we're your friend too. And of course we also have a Facebook community where we talk about all these things as well.
We'll leave a link again to our Facebook group below, but definitely surround yourself as much as you can with people who do support what you're doing, the lifestyle changes that you're making. And I think that's about it. And then just hold on tight until
you can move out.
And now we have a question from Lisa. She says, how did you train your bird not to poo on your shoulder? Many of you have probably seen my little parrot Bonnie before, but if not, we'll insert a clip of her. She's featured in a video before and luckily she didn't poop on me. But yeah, she does do it sometimes, so I can't really answer.
She is pretty good though. You'd be surprised, you can toilet train a bird.
Yeah, Bonnie does poop on command at her stand, but there's always the accident, the odd one that lands on my shirt, but that's what happens when you're a bird mum. Mark asks, what does paleo granola consist of?
So this is one that we have in our Rise and Shine ebook, so if you wanted a full recipe for how we make ours, you can check it out there. But otherwise, paleo granola is pretty much made up of nuts and seeds, so we're avoiding things that contain gluten, so oats are something that is often contaminated with gluten. We also try to keep ours fairly low sugar as well. So we're not adding in heaps of, a lot of granolas contain a lot of refined sugar. And we do put in a bit of honey. Yeah, we put in a little bit of honey, and I think in our recipe we put some dried figs, which is my favourite dried fruit, but just a minimal amount. And then we also use some nice spices in there. Oh yeah, that makes a difference. Definitely sticking away from all those blood sugar spiking refined grains and also like cornflakey things. So our next question comes from Kalpana. She says, hi, just came across your YouTube channel, starting with your first video. How do you usually take your coffee? Or how should we? I usually take it 2 milk, 1 sugar. So I drink my coffee black. I'm sorry if that's bad news. Not going to be popular. You could take it with like almond milk, or if you tolerate dairy, you could take it with a good quality, either cream or whole fat milk. Yeah, you definitely have to drop the sugar, but the thing is, I think the good news is you really get used to it without sugar, and then it's basically intolerable with sugar. Like if you put sugar in my coffee, I'd just be... Yeah, I think you'd be surprised if you're going paleo, once you give up all the other refined sugary things, you find that your taste for sugar kind of goes down. Often we kind of build up a bit of a tolerance, I think, where you need everything to be laden with sugar for it to taste normal. Then, your taste changes and you realise. Yeah, it's not like a willpower thing, because I think a lot of people look at, someone who's gone fully paleo like us and thinks like we have this really solid willpower, but often it's just literally like your whole palate and like your brain is just like wired towards a different taste. So black coffee or with some almond milk. So our next comment is from Mandeep. It says, hey guys, quick question. What would you consider is a good carb source that can replace sweet potatoes and white potatoes? The reason being that both type of carb sources don't seem to agree with me. So it sounds like this person is reacting to starches. So I mean, other great carb sources on a paleo diet, which many people forget about, I feel, is fruits. So you certainly can get your carbohydrate from eating a couple of servings of fruit a day, some things like bananas, pears, apples, citrus. And it'll be interesting to see if you react differently to the sugars in fruits, because it's going to be a sugar rather than a starch. So whether you do better or worse on that. And the other, it's an interesting question, because sometimes because you don't react well to a food doesn't really mean that there's something wrong with the food. It's more perhaps there's an imbalance within your system, like within your gut, that's not allowing you to break down these foods as you should be able to. So it might be something to look into, looking at the balance of good and bad bacteria in your gut and doing some gut healing work, because I know people who literally have avoided onions and FODMAPs like for years, but it doesn't need to be like that. You should be able to eat these foods, because just those foods are actually really good for you. You don't want to avoid them forever. So if you find that you're reacting to certain foods, it might not actually be that the food is a problem, but more so that you might have a potential gut issue or something else that needs to be looked at. Although that does apply to good whole foods. If you react to Doritos, then they should just be out. But if you have problems after eating a sweet potato, it's worth investigating what the root issue is, because it's not the potato. Okay, so our next question comes from Jessica Lee. So she says, hey guys, I really enjoy your videos. They give me heaps of great ideas. My favourite recipe so far being the sweet potato with mince. That's one of my favourites as well. So she says, I have a question about the coconut yogurt that was mentioned. Every brand I've come across has cornstarch in it. Is that an acceptable paleo ingredient, or have you found a coconut yogurt without it?
So I don't think we have actually found one, and we have had this comment a couple of times pointing out that there is some corn flour in coconut yogurt. So of course you could make it yourself, but we don't really mind. Of course it's not a paleo ingredient, but it would be used in such a small amount to thicken the yogurt that we don't lose sleep over it. We try and focus on the more important things in our diet, which is remaining gluten-free. For me, that's remaining dairy-free as well, because I react to dairy, and focusing on getting as much nutrient-dense, healthy foods in as possible.
And if you are really worried about how much corn flour they're using, you can also take a look at the nutrition profile. So when you look at the carbs, if that was particularly high, I would be worried, but most of the time for coconut yogurt, it's pretty low. So the amount of cornstarch that they're using in there is minimal. It's not much. The only other time that I might worry about it though is if you were perhaps following AIP, or you for some other reason are reacting to corn. But for just trying to live healthier, I wouldn't get worried about it. So our next question comes from Manuka. So she left not so much a question on one of our What I Eat in a Day videos. She said, is that a lot of salt or is it just me? Lol. I like this question though because it draws attention to a really important topic, and that's about salt. So a lot of people are very afraid of eating salt, but the truth is that if you're living a paleo lifestyle or you're not eating much packaged food, you have to be eating a little bit of salt to fulfill your body's need for sodium, because sodium is actually an essential mineral. And in fact, we're finding now that too little sodium can be more dangerous or just as dangerous as having too much. So when you're eating no packaged or processed foods which are high in sodium, you actually have to be more mindful about adding salt to your meals to get enough sodium. And it can come up as like feeling lightheaded or dizzy when you stand up sometimes because you're just so low in sodium. And then there's a lot to be said as well for the type of salt that you're using. So definitely not using regular table salt. That is a very processed product, and they add a lot of other things to it that are no good for us. So looking more a natural sea salt, or Celtic sea salt is known to be very pure. Also you could do the pink Himalayan, although I've heard mixed things.
I use pink Himalayan salts, but to be honest, I kind of like rotate. I just buy something new every time, but looking for the most unprocessed natural sea salts. So yeah, just steering completely clear of like those sacks of salt, cooking salt, plastic containers and all that. So our next question comes from Joy, and she says, for those with high FODMAP intolerance that includes onion and garlic, do you have any suggestions on substitutes for retaining flavour in dishes but eliminating high FODMAP foods?
So I think this can be a bit of a difficult one, because I know especially for me, I love garlic and I love onion, and for a period of time I was doing a low FODMAP thing, and it can be quite hard when you try to flavour everything normally with garlic. So I'd say definitely experiment with other herbs and spices that are low FODMAP, just because it really changes up the flavour.
That's what I would say. And like, how many spices are going to be high FODMAP?
Not that many. I'd have to look it up though.
Yeah. There are so many different spices you can use. Obviously chili, paprika, fennel seeds, cumin.
Yeah,
You'd have to look at the FODMAP content of those, but I'd have to say I'd think they'd be low.
We were thinking about doing a low FODMAP paleo what we eat in a day, because I know a lot of you guys are on low FODMAP. So if anybody's interested in seeing something like that, definitely comment that below.
So another question from Yeah Man. So they say, what enzymes do you recommend for bloated stomach? I have a family member who has had this issue for years, has gotten it checked out by an MD but not conclusive. All tests seem to be normal for them so far. Suggestions: are enzymes known to help? They also smoke, which I know doesn't help.
If we're dealing with bloating, you might want to investigate FODMAPs first. You could try eliminating FODMAPs for a period of time, because it might be the overgrowth of a certain type of bacteria. Then I'd be looking perhaps at whether they might have SIBO, so that would be overgrowth of bacteria into the small intestine. So sometimes that can cause a lot of bloating and distension because it's producing a lot of gas.
The other clue for that is you can have some reflux and things.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely maybe try something along the lines of a low FODMAP approach and see if that reacts. But you can do certain tests as well to get a better indication of what the gut biome is doing, because that pretty much always influences whether or not we get bloated after certain foods. Enzymes can help.
Yeah, enzymes will definitely help, I think, no matter what kind of gut issue you're going through. It's just going to help break down all of those nutrients so that you're not getting unbroken down things passing into your small intestine.
So the enzyme that I like is this one from Source Naturals, but there are so many brands that you can get that do a good enzyme. So what you're going to want to look for is an enzyme that's complete, that has enzymes to break down your proteins, fats and carbohydrates. But enzymes are really great if you're dealing with things like bloating that are caused by foods that are not being broken down. So this can definitely help with breaking down food better. And then for those that also have low stomach acid, which is often part of the equation when you're not breaking down your food correctly, HCl tablets are quite helpful. It sounds a little bit scary because it's hydrochloric acid, but the stomach is built and meant to contain hydrochloric acid, so you can take those as well. You know you're taking too much if you feel a burning sensation.
And so obviously this is just a bit of a general comment. This isn't medical advice by any means, because everybody's situation is different. We can't tell you exactly what's going to work for you.
So our next question from Ali is, can you do a video on your probiotics and gut health regimen? Yes, we can. So we're going to do a video on that in the future, because we do talk about gut health very often in this channel, because it's so important to overall health, whether that's losing weight, getting clear skin, feeling more energetic. So we'll certainly do a video on that in the future.
Alright, so that was actually our final question. So we hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions for our next one, please leave them in the comments below, because this is actually a really fun video to film.
Other than that, if you enjoyed this video, as always, please leave us a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed to our channel, hit the subscribe button, and I think we'll leave you there, and we'll see you in our next video.
Bye guys.